It's the Rundown, the sports show for the Big Rapids Media Network. I am Etch, and let's introduce ourselves.
JT Scarpelli. I do the Big Rapids Cardinal football games, and I'm the Big Rapids baseball coach.
Brandon Worth, lead broadcaster for Reed City Coyote football, former Coyote alum myself, and I also compete in track and cross country at Fair State University. Fun fact.
I'm Joe. I help produce some of the games, and I'm the glue guy of the office, self-proclaimed. So I'm just kind of here to hang out.
I like it. So some kind of surprises that happened in the CSAA Gold last week. Let's kind of jump right into it. Brandon, why don't you kick off things with Reed City and the Coyotes and how they ended up doing?
Yeah, it was a fun football game nonetheless. Obviously, would have liked to see the scores flipped at the outcome at the end of the day for myself. I know I might owe Joe a steak dinner here coming up this week, but it's all right. No, it was a good football game. We didn't see as much offense as necessarily was expected based off of historical results and obviously what we had seen previewing going up into this game. Tri-County's offense had been really good. Reed City was really coming off of a bad week where they weren't able to get anything going, and they made a switch that really benefited, especially moving Max Hammond into the backfield. I mean, for his debut, I had to double check here on my stat sheet from the game. 17 carries, 183 yards. That Max Hammond had 3 touchdowns in his debut in the backfield. So that was a really good change. And just talking to the coaches, they wanted the best 11 out on the offensive side. And obviously that really gave it to them. Tri-County did a fantastic job. Obviously, Owen Barenwald really just had commanded the offense very well. Jaden Button was very effective out of the slot, especially getting a lot of those looks on the short passing game. And that really just stretched out Reed City's defense a little bit, which if you look at this team on paper, especially for Reed City, offensively, they're looking very strong. Obviously, have a lot of playmakers. Defensively, they're very young. They're very inexperienced on that side of the ball. And obviously, that made a huge difference in this game. But I think especially from what you saw from Barenwald, obviously had touchdowns on the ground, and he threw for over 100 yards in the air. He was commanding, especially against that Reed City secondary, and especially even though Reed City had built up that lead going into that second half, tried kind of really good job adjusting. They really stuck with the game plan. They were able to move the ball, especially on the ground in that little read option spread there with Barenwald, as well as they brought Chase Keller really into the game. He was involved. I believe we also saw a couple other backs that got carries, especially over the end of that game. Hallman, I believe, had a touchdown. So I think especially when you looked at that game, Tri-County was really executing down the stretch. Reed City committed some really timely penalties that really hurt them offensively, trying to maybe get that last touchdown in the last couple minutes to answer. But it's really just shows you how young this football team really is. We looked into how it's been over for Reed City over the last couple of years. We knew this was probably going to be one of their youngest rosters that they had, and now we're just kind of seeing it come to fruition a little bit. But this will be a really big week they got coming up next week. But I think this also shows that Tri-County's really got something special cooking here, especially for Joe's squad.
JT, how did Big Rapids do?
So Big Rapids, they did a kind of a 180 in their game script for week 2. Week 1, they threw the ball about 61% of the time, excuse me, and against Pawpaw. And that game ended up 34-13 in favor of Pawpaw. A lot of that was games like adapting to the game, though, and how it went. But Newaygo, Coach Seltzer and staff, they committed to running the ball. 81% of their plays were on the ground. It was a substantial day for multiple players on the ground. They won 42-14 against Newaygo. Just commanded the game right from the beginning. They had 376 yards on the ground. Venix only threw the ball 10 times. One thing that became very clear, we all knew after week 1, you could tell Venix is a good passer. He has all the tools for it, and his decisions will just get better and better every week. But Coach Seltzer did a good job here of just taking the pressure off of him and not even really running him that much either. He only ran the ball 7 times. He did have 87 yards on the ground. Bowman, who ran the ball only a few times, 3 times week 1 for 9 yards. He had 2 touchdowns, 109 yards on 15 carries against Newaygo. And then Garrett Foster, who, in my opinion, on both sides of the ball, he showcased himself to most likely be, and fight me on this, Brandon, the best football player in the area. He just was unreal on both sides of the ball. He had 11 rushes for 90 yards. He caught both of his 2 targets for 23 yards, but he also played stellar defense. He stripped a fumble and recovered it. He was doing everything on both sides of the ball. But when you watched him, not just stat sheet stuff, when you watched him play, he's a very dynamic player. He's very athletic, but he's also very strong. I'd say Bowman's got him just a touch on like the power output as a rusher, but Garrett did his best towards the end of that game to prove that statement incorrect. He had a moment where he got in some space up the near sideline towards the 50, and it was him, the sideline, and a Newaygo player, and instead of going out of bounds, he ran that kid over with all of his force. It was a very impressive football play by Garrett Foster. But I can't say enough about, between him and Bowman, how much work these guys put in the offseason to their bodies, and it's showing. Right. It's showing. Someone like Garrett Foster, it's just showing the kid's a really good athlete. He's very smart. He's got a good football mind. And it's just really, he's flourishing on both sides of the ball. So the Pawpaw game, it was a little bit more difficult for him to display all these things the way that game went. He was still a huge factor in that game on both sides of the ball. But this Newaygo game, it was like, holy cow, this kid he's the real deal. So he's only going to get better as the season goes on. But then you also have offensively, and he chipped in defensively as well. But you have Caleb Dabowski, the senior. Caleb routinely, he had 9 targets week 1, 5 targets week 2. He catches. He catches almost 80% of his passes. He's got 150, 160 yards and 2 touchdowns. Like he's another guy. You get him in open space and he'll be going. So it was a really good turnaround week and a statement week for the Cardinals. They averaged 8 yards a play, up from 2.5 against Pawpaw. Everything just seemed to click right from the get-go. And the biggest question was, they played 2 quarters against Pawpaw and then kind of fell apart. Can they play 4 quarters against Newaygo? Absolutely. Yeah, they did. So well, in fact, that a lot of younger guys for most of the fourth quarter were able to come in. The only starter at one point early in the fourth quarter was Garrett Foster, who delivered that hit. And then even he came out, and you got a lot of younger guys who got a lot of playing time against first stringers on Newaygo. Cole Heiss took over for Riley Venix. Ashton Falkema got some touches. Like it was good. It was really good for some of the younger guys. Ortiz ran the ball very well. So that's always the benefit of a blowout is you get some of those younger guys involved, get them the experience. So very good week for Big Rapids.
Joan, now is the open floor for you to talk as much smack as possible to Brandon here. Toss your 2 cents in the hat.
I like what JT said with how this was a statement game for Big Rapids, because I thought this was going to be a statement game for both Reed City and Big Rapids to kind of see how they were going to play out this season, especially. Reed City, it's tough because they played 2 very good teams to start, and I think there's a lot of good takeaways for Reed City. However, my Hail Mary was obviously a little bit off from what I said.
I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
After the first quarter, I can definitely tell that was a tough one. So, I think it was only 6-0. So a little bit off with that, but I was very pleased with. Tri-County played really solidly. The air attack was firing on all cylinders, but I think we got a chance to see Reed City do really well in these next few weeks, and then Big Rapids too. I think they're gonna be rolling. Especially after this game, I was a little bit wary after week 1, but this week too shows that they're a real deal team, and they can really make some noise, especially these next few weeks. And I'm really excited for this Reed City Big Rapids matchup, and I think 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or something like that. Very excited.
Yeah. Well, this matchup this week to cut you off there, Etch, with Chip Hills going to Reed City. That's a good game too.
I'm excited for that one. Yeah. I was going to kind of bring that up too, because Chip Hills, they're 2-0, right?
They're 2-0. Yeah. They've given up 15 points in 2 games.
That defense is the real deal, man. They know what they're doing.
Now, one thing that was a takeaway that I remember was kind of the laugh last week. Morley Stanwood. Morley Stanwood, JT, your assessment of that situation, thinking they were going to break that streak of the losing streak, pull their first win in some time. What do you think happened there?
They didn't.
No,
They didn't do it. They didn't listen to me. I believed in them. They ended up losing 24-14 at Kalkaska. I thought they were going to break the streak. The losing streak continues for the Mohawks. And now this week they got to go to Newaygo. This is this is a prime bounce back situation for Newaygo, unfortunately. So I think the streak's probably going to continue this week. I got to pull Newaygo on that one. But yeah, my Hail Mary. I mean, I will say at least they only lost by 10. It wasn't like a blowout.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So.
If I remember correctly, though, JT, it was, quote, Kalkaska is very bad.
Yes, those exact words.
Yes. Obviously, scouting was a little off, or I don't want to say it, or Morley's just in that much of a rut right now, right? They're struggling that much. So I'm not gonna say what you're getting at there, Joe, by me calling Kalkaska really bad and then they beat Morley, but let's leave it at that.
We can't win them all. That's just how it works. So
at this point, you'd have to think that it's like a statistical probability that they will win. Morley will win a game after losing. What was it? It's like 12 or 13 in a row now. Like,
I was gonna say, I feel like it's harder to lose that many games in a row than sprinkling a W here and there.
Like you're gonna get the big penalty or fumble. Like something has to happen eventually. So maybe that's I don't know. Maybe that's not this week. Maybe it's next week. They host Lakeview next week. Maybe that's the game.
Fingers crossed for them. Let's look ahead to since you're up here, JT. Let's look ahead for this week for Big Rapids. What you got?
So Big Rapids they're going to Central Montcalm. The Hornets. The Hornets are a potentially dangerous team. They took care of Morley week 1, 53-0. So they actually opened with 4 home games too. Morley, Kent City, Big Rapids, and then next week with Chip Hills. So they took care of Morley. That looked pretty good for them week 1. But then week 2, they got taken care of by Kent City. And Kent City, I'm not going to say Kent City is bad, but Kent City did get into a dogfight with Newaygo, winning that week 1, 14-13. And Big Rapids just beat Newaygo 42-14. So it's always tough to go down to Stanton. That's a tough place to win. They're going to, and just chatting with Coach Seltzer, they're going to run it 75% of the time. Or at least they have so far in their first week, 2 weeks here. They got a couple of these Lingman kids. One of them can sling the ball around. But last year, Emmett, he really struggled against Big Rapids when Central Montcalm came to BR. It was a 51-6 thrashing by Big Rapids. Big Rapids had 6 touchdowns in the game. Strickler had 255 all-purpose yards. But the Big Rapids defense gave up 79 yards in the entire game. Lingman threw 6 interceptions to 4 to Xander Prince, 1 to Venix, 1 to Heck. So it was, it was not an ideal week for Coach Kripe of Central Montcalm. And now this week, even though he's hosting them, I would say all the momentum is definitely on Big Rapids' side to go down there. Coach Seltzer seems like he's got a pretty good game plan put together for them. And if you're watching film, if you're Coach Kripe watching film of Big Rapids so far, you can't say you can't predict what they're going to do. Really, you can assume that they're probably going to run the ball because Coach Seltzer in his career has run the ball for Big Rapids, 66% of the plays, right? But week 1, he threw it 60%. Week 2, he ran it 80%. So are they going to stick with the ground game, or are they going to go to the air? Is there a matchup they like or don't like? If you're Coach Kripe, it's a little bit, how do I set up my defense? And if I sell out for one, they prove that they can burn me real quickly on the other. So, you load the box to take away Bowman's legs. You have Foster out of the backfield, Foster in the slot. You have Dubo out wide. Like there's a ton of options for Big Rapids and what they can do to set this game up. So it's going to be a tough one for Kripe. I definitely think, I don't want to just sound like a broken record, always rooting for my own team, but I definitely think the matchup favors Big Rapids here. It most certainly favors Big Rapids historically. Week 3, actually, Seltzer has done quite well. He's 7-1 in week 3. Week 3 away games, he's 3-0 in his career. So, it's looking good. He's got a 3-game win streak against Central Montcalm going. He's 6-2 in his career against them. So I'm going to take Big Rapids on this. Whenever I did some of my probabilities, 67% chance Big Rapids wins this game. So I'm not sure if it's going to be quite the thrashing that they put on Newaygo. I think Central Montcalm should be a little better, but I think they could probably throw up 30 plus points in this game.
Nice. What's your Hail Mary for this week?
My Hail Mary is talking with Coach Ancliffe, man, and his defense. My Hail Mary is they don't give up 20 points to Reed City. Reed City scores less than 20 points. And Chip Hills, they end a 12-game losing streak against the Coyotes. So I know that they got to go to Reed City, but that's my Hail Mary. This could be the kiss of death too, right? I could be condemning Chip Hills by making this statement. Yeah.
2 in a row.
So if that's the case, I'm really sorry, Coach Polong, but I just think that this is the year for some of the conference maybe to catch up. I don't know, and Chip Hills they're looking pretty good. I mean, Grant struggled up and down, but 43 points, that's a lot of points. They're not giving up much. They scored a lot. So maybe this offense is going to click for Polong and that defense will keep showing up for Ancliffe. So that's my Hail Mary, the Warriors.
Brendan, respond to that one, please. I'm dying to hear.
Well, you see, I wanted to give condolences to the Mohawk fan base because in typical fashion, JT raised them up and then smacked them down in the words of Floyd Mayweather to that program. So now it looks like he's doing the same for Chip Hills. So I guess I got to apologize ahead of time. No, it's going to be a fun game. I'm really interested to see because I covered that team last year calling for Chip Hills. And what Coach Polong, when you saw from week 1 to week 9 was a different football team. And they've really carried over that week 9 into this season. They're a much better football team than they were a year ago at this time of the year. And obviously, that's going to make it a very interesting game. I think Chip Hill's still traveling on the road, which they have not as necessarily been as good of a road team historically in years past when you look at the numbers. But I expect Chip Hills is going to try to spread it out a little bit. They're going to probably throw a lot of short passes, doing a lot of slants, a little bit of outs, trying to get short yardages so they can stretch the field with the run game inside out and try to kind of use that tempo and speed to their advantage. But I think we're going to see Coach Schenkel and especially that defense. I think they're going to adjust with a lot of pressure this week. I think they're going to really try and keep Chip Hills on the backs of their heels, especially from the first quarter and on. So I think we might see some more blitzes potentially this week from this defense. I think we're going to see maybe a little bit of a structural change because they've been susceptible to give up some of those chunk plays. They've been doing a good job of really, especially from week 1, Kingsley was able to get a lot of big plays. Last week, they made a good adjustment to not give up some of those big plays, but they gave up a lot of 4, 5, 6 yard short passes and runs on first down. And that's really putting you against the sticks with the rest of 3 downs. And that gives your offense, especially on the other side, a bigger playbook to work with. But I think especially with the situation that this football program is in right now, and I had to double check this. I was talking to some friends. When was the last time Reed City was 0-2 to start a season? You got to go back to 2009. That's how good this team and this program has been, all the way back since 2009, since they've lost their first 2 games of a season. And that was the last time they didn't make the postseason. That's how good this football team and this football program has been. So this is a new perspective. This is a new situation. Backs against the wall. This really is the game-defining part of your season right here. Week 3, believe it or not, because you lose to Chippewa Hills, a team that's going to leapfrog you up in the CSAA. You look what Tri-County is going to be at. I mean, this is for the CSAA title. Everything that you want for a conference championship, determined this Friday against Chippewa Hills. As much as you want to make it a week 8 problem, it's a week 3 problem now that you've lost 2 games. But I expect to see a big game. Max Hammond had a big week last week. I think we could see a really big week from John Andres. He's been a fantastic player that's flew under the radar as far as the statistics sheet has been. I think you also see Spencer Hammond play a really good game at corner as well. He's been very much improved over since the beginning of the season and early camp. So I think those are going to be 2 names you're going to watch out for. I think Reed City wins this game. I think they win it by 2 scores at home against Chippewa Hills and get their season back on track.
What you got for your Hail Mary?
My Hail Mary is going to be a good one. This is a very interesting matchup, as me and JT were talking about on air. I don't know how this agreement came to place and how these 2 teams found each other, but Allen Park, Cabrini, and Lakeview, how those 2 teams decided to play each other, we have no idea. But I will tell you this. Lakeview's going to make it 2-0 against Cabrini, and they're going to get an underdog victory. As Cabrini they're a good football team, obviously a team from down in the Detroit area. I mean, they literally live, eat, breathe football down there in Allen Park as they see the Lions going into camp every single summer. So they're a really good team, but Lakeview has been a team. They really had a good competition in week 1 against McBain. They went toe-to-toe with that program. They've been much improved, and they've been able to really sneak out some close games against some of these opponents, and I think that they can do the same, and I think they're going to make some prizes here this week, and I think they're going to beat Cabrini there at home, and I think they're going to see if they can use that momentum to go into silver play coming up here in a few weeks and see if they can start making a run maybe for that silver title. We'll have to just wait and see.
Joe, who you got? What's it looking like this week for you?
I wouldn't say it's a Hail Mary. It's more of like a 3rd and short, like small pass play or something instead of that for my prediction. But I'm telling you, Grant versus Tri-County, they're fighting for the hammer. It's rivalry week for Tri-County, and they're coming off of 2 wins, 2 great wins as well. So my Hail Mary, I guess you could say, take that very lightly, is Tri-County's going to win this by 3 scores, and they're going to not let up on the gas pedal against the Tigers. Grant's won that hammer and the rivalry, I think 4 out of maybe 4 of the 7 times, but the last 3 years been all Tri-County. So I think it's going to be all tied up with the hammer there, but the hammer is going to be coming home to Gooden Parker Field this Friday, guarantee.
Got our Hail Marys in, got our predictions, and look at the week ahead here. And we got Big Rapids that is going to be playing at Central Montcalm, 7 o'clock on Friday. You can check that game out on Big Country 100.9. Coach JT Scarpelli will have all the calls on that one. And Brendan Worth will be calling the game for the Coyotes, who will be taking on Chip Hills at home. So you can tune into that one at 7 o'clock as well on Y102, 102.3 WYBR. So we'll see how we all match up next week, and we'll reconvene and restructure and see just where we're at as far as if there's going to be upsets, if there's going to be some pretty much guarantees that we just knew was going to happen. We'll let you know all about it on the Rundown from the Big Rapids Media Network.